Hey everybody, it's Muffin, and tomorrow is patch 20.20 for Teamfight Tactics 7.5. Mordog just released his video today on the new patch notes, so I'm going to go over them with you today. But I try to keep these videos under 10 minutes, and there's a lot of little buffs, so we're going to jump straight in. But if you really enjoy these short patch rundowns, please hit the like button. It would really mean a lot to me. But yeah, let's jump right into the buffs. Something Mordog and Kent said is that they really wanted to focus on making reroll comps a little bit more viable, as well as touching up a lot of 3-star champs, especially at 1 cost and 5 costs. So our first major buff is Ezreal's getting a decent 40 spell damage at 3-star. So he'll probably be a little bit better as a carry than he has been most of this set. Since 7.0, he hasn't really been that oppressive, but 3-star Ezreal might be actually valid now. Nasus also got an upgrade at 3-star, though I don't think we're going to see any Nasus reroll anytime soon. Senna got an extra 50 spell damage at 3-star, but mostly she's going to cast more every fight because her mana cost is reduced. Wukong also got a little buff at 3-star, going from 230 spell AD to 250 spell AD, so maybe Bonky Kong can pop off. For 2 costs, Kai'Sa also got a spell increase at 3-star, which is kind of cool. And Lilia's actually went up 20 spell damage as well at 3-star. And what kind of was unexpected to me is Lux got buffed at 2-star and 3-star. I felt like this makes Astral a bit stronger, but since you can't get Think Fast at 2-1 anymore, this Astral change does make a bit more sense, making the comp a little bit more stable at 2-star and 3-stars. We also got an HP damage from Zac increase from 7 to 18%, so it's a little over 100% buff, which is a pretty big buff, but also several times I stared at Zac while he was casting and I went, oh, he just doesn't do any damage. Like, I thought he literally did 0 damage, so the whole point of this buff is to make him go from doing like 20 damage on his cast to like at least a little bit. Poor Zac, kind of been doing nothing this whole time. Nunu got a decent buff at 3-star, but since he got his bite changed from true damage, I think this is necessary. He kind of fell off a lot and people don't use him very much. Rakan got a decent buff at 3-star, so reroll is actually starting to feel a lot more viable. Even Sylas got 50 shield at 3-star, and Volibear is actually going to cast 2 autos faster, so he gets into that lightning strike state a little bit faster in the combat. For 4 cost, Hecarim 3-star got a 200 spell damage increase, so maybe Hecarim 3 now can actually like one-shot an entire board. That'd be really cool. As well as Jace, who's a very underperforming 3-star, is getting a pretty decent buff as well. I unironically played a game where Jace 3 lost to Karma 3, and it just did not feel good, man. This Jace unit doesn't kill much. Ever since his stun got removed, he's not been too great of a champion, so I almost wish he got a little bit more of a buff at like 2-star maybe, or maybe instead of losing CC he got like a bit of CC immunity or something like that. I think in order to be a useful unit he needed a little bit more added to his kit instead of just a little bit of damage reduction since there's so much backline access, but it's fair enough. Hey guys, it's Editor Muffin here, and I forgot to mention this during the main recording, but probably because it's like from my nightmares, but Tyrant Swain also got a buff at 1 and 2-star, going up 5 damage at 1-star and a whole 10 damage per Dragonling at 2-star. I have to imagine this is a personal attack from the TFT team because this thing, I hate this. This is the most disgusting champion in the game. But okay, back to the video. For tier 5 units, Zoe and Shyvana both got huge buffs. Shyvana's dive damage now goes up 1,000 damage, as well as will stun the entire enemy board for 10 seconds. So Shyvana 3 will no longer be losing ever, unless it's against another 3-star 5 cost pretty much. It should just instantly one-shot the entire enemy team. As well as Zoe's Kale ult will now give 1,000 armor and MR, and her Janna ult will now give attack speed to the entire team for 30 seconds instead of 5 seconds. These are definitely for very rare cases where you are able to get a 3-star 5 cost, but especially with kind of how broken 3-star Soraka is, these changes do make a bit more sense, so these matchups are at least a little bit comparable. And that's it for unit buffs. But for traits, Assassin got buffed at 2-star, going from 40% critical strike to 50%, trying to lean into more use for Force Assassins. There's really not been any major comps around that yet, so trying to lean into that a little bit more. 4 Cannoneer got a 25% shot AD buff, as well as Cavalier got buffed at 2, 3, 4, and 5. There's been a lot of just skipping past the front line lately, so Cavalier's not been very useful, but it's nice to see Cavalier's at least a little bit stronger. Guardian got buffed at 6 Guardian and 8 Guardian, going up 10% at 6 and 5% at 8. Dragonmancer got buffed at the 2 and 4 intervals. This will make 2 and 4 Dragonmancer a little bit more consistent. Also with the Kai'Sa buffs will make Kai'Sa reroll I imagine actually quite good. And Ragewing also got a buff at 8 Ragewing, bringing 8 Ragewing up to 275 attack speed and 85% Omnivamp, which is a lot. Maybe set reroll will be a little bit more viable now, but I'm still not sure. Now, there are a lot less nerfs, but still a lot across the board. Definitely focused on a lot more higher performing comps that you've seen recently, such as maybe like Lagoon Nyla or even the Rengar comp. A lot of these were actually just ridiculously strong, especially in high elo. So they've been nerfed a little bit. Starting with Karma, she actually lost 20 spell damage on her 3-star. This isn't going to make her entirely useless, especially since 2 and 4 Dragonmancer were buffed. But this is going to make her a lot less likely to one-shot everything in 1 or 2 casts, so this is pretty nice. nice, but she's also the only 1 cost that got nerfed. Seraphine 3-star has also been nerfed again. I think last time she went from 100 spell damage down to 70, so now she's from 70 to 65. I have to imagine that the Seraphine reroll comp is just dead in the water now. This spell damage plus Pantheon was really like its entire like kit, so I can't imagine that that's very good. That's a lot of decreased spell damage. And I put Namzi in the nerf category just because Mage Namzi got nerfed across the board, though she did get buffs across the board on her Cannoneer version and her Evoker version. Mostly because we haven't seen any comps that revolve around these prodigies, so who knows. And my least favorite unit, Rengar, got nerfed. Finally, I hate this unit so much. Rengar and Swain, and them both being in the same comp, I hate it. But Rengar's mana got moved to a 70 out of 140 instead of a 60 out of 120. This will make his first cast a little bit later, while his second and third cast a lot less likely to happen. While his spell AD at 1-star and 2-star also got nerfed. It didn't get touched at all at 3-star, and the explanation was that a 3-star Rengar should be a menace, and I do agree. So at least 3-star Rengar will still suffer that mana buff, so he'll cast a little bit less, so that my Daeja 2s are a lot less likely to get 2-shot. Moving on to 4-cost and 7-cost dragons. Nyla's the same at 1 and 2-star, but her 3-star is massively reduced, 300 base spell damage, where Graves 3 spell AD is also nerfed at 3-star. Meanwhile, Pantheon got nerfed quite a bit at 1 and 2-star for his base spell damage. Some got nerfed about 5% across the board at all stars, while Sy'fen's mana is now 100 out of 170 instead of 90 out of 116. His first cast will take the same amount of time as always, but his second and third cast will be a little bit less frequent. Daeja got a small nerf at 2-star and a pretty big one at 3-star. All of these were a bit strong, and I think is going to normalize a lot more of your like reroll comps. I think bringing down the power of a lot of the dragons should help a lot of the pacing. A lot of your faster lobbies are going to be a lot weaker now, and it's going to make the heavy roll down at level 7 a little bit less consistent, and people are going to actually have to manage their econ more, go level 8, and actually construct better comps. I'm actually super down for this, especially because once we go on to the 5-cost dragons or the 8-cost dragons, Alshin also has had his mana reduced from 0 out of 175 to 0 out of 190, so even his first cast is going to take a lot longer. As well as Terra, who's been the premier frontline for the dragon comp, has had their base HP reduced from 1200 to 1050, and also had their spell and armor reduced at 3-star, but that's kind of irrelevant. I still think this Terra is going to kill everything. It doesn't matter. But its HP being reduced by 150 is actually quite significant and should make the consistency of rolling down at 8 and enforcing this dragon comp a little bit less so, but should help normalize a lot of your reroll options. Last for unit nerfs is Zoe also got a mana nerf, going to 40 out of 110 instead of 30 out of 10. So the same amount of time to cast the first time, but second cast will take a little bit longer. And for traits that got nerfed, we only have 3. One is 8 Dark Flight, going from 1800 HP down to 1600 HP. Shouldn't be too big of a deal. Jade got a decent attack speed nerf at 5 Jade, going from 30% attack speed down to 22. So quite significant. But the one that really breaks my heart is Guild is finally being touched. The attack speed from Twitch is going down from 13% to 11%. The Omnivamp from Emblem is going down 25% from 4 to 3, as well as 7 and 8 Guild are being nerfed quite a bit. This is not going to kill Guild comps, but it does always make me feel bad to see Twitch a little bit nerfed. I mean, I made the Twitch build because he's my favorite unit this set, so it's always sad to see him a little weaker. So it should be extremely good in lower elo lobbies, so I would highly recommend you play this comp, especially if you're Diamond or below. To wrap it up, we're going to talk about some augment changes. As always, here's all of them, but the major ones I want to point out is you can no longer get multiple tiers of built different. So if you take built diff 2, you cannot get built diff 3 or built diff 1. This is also true with double trouble. You cannot get multiple tiers, as well as been nerfed a little bit. Magic Crown no longer gives Silas, it now gives Lux, so it's going to be a little bit less consistent on having that front line, which the Silas was one of the major reasons you wanted this. With preparations, units now will start with 1 stack, so you don't have to hold them to get that first stack. Scoped Weapons 2 will no longer give the additional attack speed, and Think Fast can no longer be offered at 2-1, so rolling down for all the 1-cost Astral units is no longer possible. For bug fixes, actually a pretty big one that I felt like I was going crazy that I was the only one who was seeing this, but Zyra will now pick randomly between rows that are tied, rather than always choosing the farthest row or the nearest row in each fight. It always seemed like Zyra was, if you had everyone decently spaced out, they would always ult your Twitch or your Xayah, and I think this is actually going to be a huge buff to any of your backline comps against a Lagoon or anyone who's playing Zyra. But the rest of these are pretty minor. For adjustments, we only have this one small note. No units were majorly changed this game, but now in stage 1 you can no longer get a 5 gold drop, now consistently giving you 6. This will just allow everyone to have an even playing field in the early bits of the game. As well as there are a couple of changes to the treasure dragons options. You can now no longer get that 100 gold drop, it's only an 80 gold drop, as well as there was a chaos dragon shop option where you get a whole bunch of aura items. It was a little too overperforming, so they took away a Zeke's Herald. Shouldn't be too big of a deal, but yeah, this is going to be the new patch we're going into with patch 2020. Some major things I think would look at is I do think that Karma reroll is going to be quite powerful still, even with like a slight nerf at 3-star. It looks like it's going to be pretty good. Also, if you've seen Kai'Sa into late game dragons, I think this will be a lot more consistent, but hopefully this will breathe a lot more into like your 1-cost rerolls. Maybe someone will find an Nasus board, or we can even find like an Ezreal reroll board. That would be really cool. But I'd love to hear what you think about these changes in the comments. And if you like these short patch rundowns, please consider hitting the like button or even subscribing down below. I really enjoy making TFT content for you guys, so I'd love for you to be able to come back for another video. As always, I've been Muffin the Gamer. You guys have been amazing. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.